You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Leaders are expected to do more than just manage. They're tasked with inspiring and guiding teams in meaningful ways. A new book, Leader Coach, Scaling Conscious Leadership at Work, is helping leaders create workplace culture rooted in consciousness. Here to walk us through some of the principles discussed in the book is co-author, speaker, and executive coach, Kaley Klemp. Welcome to the show, Kaley. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us.
So happy to be here. Thanks, Jim.
Sure. So what is conscious leadership? And then we'll get into what inspired you to write the book. But what is conscious leadership?
Conscious leadership is essentially saying you have a choice in any moment whether you want to be leading from a place of closed, constricted, defensive space, or whether you want to be leading from a place of curiosity, responsibility, and choice. And so when I think about conscious leadership, it's really the idea of, can you engage with whomever it is that you are leading or working with from a place of awareness and choice?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So what inspired you to write the book? I guess some of those principles right there, right?
Exactly. Well, really what inspired this book is part of your intro, which is managers and leaders are being expected to do so much more than just manage.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily equipped with tools to know what to do. They wanted to do it. They just didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so very often in those instances, they would hire an external coach, which is a great idea, I would say, out of complete self-interest. And what we thought is, what if we could equip those leaders to bring many of those skills internal to themselves and to the organization?
Sure.
So I think about Leader Coach as really being a guidebook to help managers and leaders be able to implement these tools on their own.
That's great. The book, obviously, for leaders and managers, could it also be given to your underlings so that you're all maybe on the same page with this, or not so much?
Yes. No, 100%. I think that there's a benefit. There's actually two benefits to having everyone read the same book. One is that they share a vocabulary. So if you say in the abstract to someone, so are you taking 100% responsibility? That means something different to them. Whereas if everyone is grounded in the idea of, 100% responsibility means exactly my part. Not more, where I'm rescuing or heroing or jumping in, but also not less, where I'm apathetic. That shorthand gets you a long way.
Right.
It's interesting, actually, today I am on site with a client where they're taking their entire senior leadership team through the concepts of Leader Coach, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
Benefit number two is I think that everyone's a leader. You don't have to have the title to be a leader. And so having somebody who's an individual contributor consider themselves a leader, well, isn't that beneficial too?
That's right. Yeah, there's no question. Even though somebody might not be in the managerial position or the CEO or a C-suite or what have you, there are definitely leaders among groups and among divisions in companies that weren't even given the title, but people just gravitate to those individuals and kind of look to them to say, okay, well, is this a good thing, a bad thing? What do you want us to do next? Did I do good? Did I not do good? And meanwhile, the person's in a position to say, well, I'm actually just your counterpart here, but there are those personalities in every company, right? That people go, oh, go ask Bob. He'll know the answer, and we go to Bob for everything, or Susie, or what have you, right?
100%. We think about those folks as being culture influencers, and having your culture influencers be a force for good, a force for conscious leadership.
Yeah.
When people go check in with them, like, well, what do Bob or Susie think about this? If they're aligned with your intention, all the better.
Yeah. How does leading with a coaching mindset differ from other management styles?
What we think about with coaching and leadership is there's actually sort of two different pieces that come together and what we think about as a Venn diagram. So pure coaching mindset is really about the context. How are you having this conversation? Is there emotion involved? Is there background information involved? Are there historical experiences you've had? And some people will coach only from that pure coaching mindset, whereas management and many of the other management tools are just about execution. What do you know? How do you make sure that it gets implemented? And what we think is that both are really valuable.
Right.
And so the goal of Leader Coach is to bring them together.
Very interesting. And it's so important today, and especially, and I'll ask you this question too, that when you talk about building the right culture and leading a team, how does the idea of a remote workforce play into this? Because this has been something that is very challenging for leaders and managers, is it not?
I think that remote work has certainly been an enormous challenge around culture, because there aren't the in-between moments where you get to engage with people.
Right.
There isn't the metaphorical water cooler or coffee pot or trip to the bathroom where you're having a conversation with one of your colleagues, which is where some of that culture really gets ingrained and becomes part of how people interact. To that end, having something a bit more formal where you say, we're investing in our culture, we're investing in our people, and we're doing it with intentionality, it helps in a remote work environment, because people then have that shared vocabulary and have a moment where they're focused on it, since it's not happening in those moments in between.
That's right. That's right. And not only are you a speaker, an author and a coach that companies can hire, you're on a gig right now for that, but you're also a speaker. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I love public speaking. I love the stage. And what I love about it is inspiring large groups of people to be able to engage with these tools. And one of my favorite things that will happen after a talk about Leader Coach is that everyone in the room, or at least the majority of folks in the room, will leave that inspired to say, I can do that. I can also be a Leader Coach. And what a virtuous cycle for the people who are managing, who are sitting sort of in those C-suite positions, to have a larger part of their organization be inspired.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Kaley Klemp, speaker, executive coach, and author. The book is titled Leader Coach, Scaling Conscious Leadership at Work. I highly recommend it for anybody, actually anybody, but specifically those that are leading in a managerial position. Maybe it's the C-suite of a company, but as we talked about today, maybe it's for your entire company, so you're all on the same page. And of course, if you're looking for an incredible speaker to light up your audience for your next convention or your conference, you don't have to look any further than Kaley. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. Very much appreciated. Love to have you back to do another follow-up, or to follow up on some of the other areas of the book.
Really appreciate it, Jim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.